Welcome back to the Leadership Lab with Joe, the show where we explore leadership, innovation, and human business growth. Today's guest blends strategic thinking with practical execution to help organizations create meaningful growth and stronger market presence. Audra Bauer is a marketing and business consultant and founder of Audra Bauer Technical Consulting LLC. Audra, welcome. Let's start with your story.
I'm happy to share my story. So my story wasn't always about tech. So when I first went to college, I really wanted to be a lawyer. And I thought for sure I was going to be a lawyer. And I went to law school. I went to law school, and then I did my first year in law school and decided I hated it. And it just didn't work out for me. And then I bounced around, and after bouncing around for a little bit, my mom said, you know what, why don't you come home? And just come home and we'll figure something out. And so I'm originally from San Jose, California, and I grew up there. But when I grew up in San Jose, California, San Jose wasn't Silicon Valley. San Jose was farms.
Not expecting.
Yeah. So when I grew up, Apple didn't exist. Apple was farmland before Apple was built. IBM didn't exist. IBM was also a peach orchard back then. And I came home and I was able to get this job at a company, I interviewed at a company called Cisco. And I thought it was the food company because that's the only Cisco I knew about. And so I went to my job interview, and it was for this company called Cisco. And it was being this computer company that at the time had 20 buildings on this brand new street that used to be a garbage facility at the time when I grew up.
What a story.
I ended up getting the job at Cisco back in, a long time ago, because I'm older than you. Back in the late 90s, and got a job at Cisco. And I worked at Cisco for a majority of my career, which was amazing because Cisco gives you a lot of opportunity to learn and grow. And so I was able to start there, work many positions, travel around the world, spent a lot of time in Europe with a lot of wonderful people, and learned how to sell to enterprise customers, service providers, small, medium business customers. My Spanish, which I grew up speaking fluently as a young child, was rudimentary. Because I grew up with, speaking to my grandparents and stuff. But I was able to learn how to speak it fluently and present to clients in Spain. And I also learned Italian. My French was still horrible, and it still is horrible. But I was able to, we worked with German customers and all your customers all around Europe.
So you're focusing on Europe, yeah?
Yeah, I had a focus in Europe, also Canada and Mexico. And so I was able to work with wonderful clients around the world for off and on for 20 years. And in between that, I was part of a few layoffs, of course, because it's a large corporation, but also got to work with other corporations in the Bay Area.
If you could let me know, what does a typical engagement looks like for your clients, like with your clients nowadays? How do you help them think through strategy and execution?
Every client's a little bit different depending on what their needs are. So what I will do is I will talk to each client and determine what they need. So I have some clients in the past that I've talked to them, and I've worked with them, and they could be a smaller client and they're having challenges with technology, and it could just be because they haven't updated since Windows 98. So we'll look at the strategy to bring them up to date with their core technology infrastructure and bring them up to date that way. And other clients, it could be more around their marketing strategy and how they're doing their initial reach out to get and gain client and communication with the clients. And attract clients to their company. And other clients is more about operational and how they're working to communicate internally and externally with their clients. So it could be more of a way for me to maybe be a train the trainer and actually train a younger generation, maybe a Gen Z person who may not know how to be a product manager on what the skill set is, and teach them that skill set and communication amongst.
Like, how long does that would take with you? Like, just to understand their needs, or to understand that this is the point that they need help when it comes to your turn?
The assessment usually will take about, depending on the client, usually between a week to 2 weeks, just to do that initial assessment. So I'll work with them and do that assessment with them. to figure
Yeah.
out what's needed, and then we'll figure out a 30, 60, 90-day plan, and then figure out what's needed during that first initial 30, 60, 90 days. Then we figure out what's needed post time after that.
Yeah. All right. That's good actually how you implement that. So how do you balance like strategy and practical implementation in this work or in your work in general?
It's really an evolutionary process. So again, working with each client needs change as you get into working the actual dissemination of the strategy.
Yeah.
As you're working with the client, the needs as you're getting into, the nuts and bolts changes because you actually get to learn more about the personality of the people that are in the organization. So every organization is a little bit different, depending especially on the size and who you're working with. Because your initial assessment that you may have had in that first 2 weeks may change depending on who you're working with and assessing strengths and weaknesses of the team you did initially see during your initial assessment. And so you just have to, work with your client and just reassess your plan and just like you would do with any other project, you do check-ins and you reassess, how you are progressing with your goal set. And then you just reassess your plan as needed to make sure you're
I totally
accomplishing the
agree.
goal that you need.
Yeah, totally agree with that. It depends on the needs, like or their pain points. Once you just start with your assessment and see how they're gonna react on that, what's gonna be the most pain point that you could see that it would really need the help. So here comes your job or what you actually do as a strategist or like in business in general. So yeah, I'll let you know like what working especially well for the clients you're engaging with nowadays.
So again, I think I have to say with the changes that have been coming with AI, needs have been changing quite drastically, especially in the last few years. And everything's changed. I mean, you have geopolitical elements that have changed what clients need, as well as AI that has impacted what clients need. So what I would have told you in 2023, when I first started my business, and even early 2024, is completely different than what I would tell you today in 2026.
Absolutely. AI changed a lot of things nowadays.
Yeah. Again, a skill set that would have taken me in 2024, maybe 2 weeks to actually finish, now takes me an hour and a half to do
Yeah.
because I can automate a lot of the function sets that I used to do manually. And so again, it's really interesting how AI has improved my skill set, but then also has changed what the needs are of the clients that I'm working with now too.
Do you believe in AI like it helps nowadays like with literally everything or like do you use it even in your personal life, let's say, not just in business?
Yeah, I don't think there's a way you can get around not using AI in your personal life and no matter where you live. So I think AI is embedded as part of our personal life. So for example, I was telling you earlier, well, before we started recording, I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I'm not sure for your viewers that are on this podcast, we have automated taxis that are in Las Vegas. So no matter where I go, I have these taxis that have no drivers that are in front of me when I'm on the road that decide to sit in the middle of an emergency medical situation that will stop and block a police officer.
No one would believe that like 10 years, 10 years ago, no one would ever believe this would happen.
Right. Yeah. And underneath the city, we have the boring tunnels, which actually now are even connected to the airport. So now you can take a boring Tesla and take a Tesla from the airport now to a hotel, which is something that didn't exist when just 3 years ago when I first started my business. So I mean, so everywhere I go, I'm touching AI no matter what I do. There's automated bartenders.
Automation is going everywhere.
So I would say yes, it's in my personal life, it's in my business life. And so when I'm dealing with customers, I need to understand now, anything I need to do with them is understand what type of AI automation they're using and how they're using AI to automate processes in their business. Because that's something I need to understand how it's impacting the way they're working and the way that they are interacting internally and externally with clients, because sometimes those AI automation pieces are impacting the tone and communication with clients. And I think
Yeah.
the one thing that we're seeing more often is the tone of AI communication is turning off a lot of client communications. So
That's
basically, clients are just not opening.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like nowadays, even there's a lot of businesses like automate a lot of things without being like without having this human interaction, and it affects negatively at the end of the day. Like I know that automation
Mhm.
is going like AI is going really well when it comes to even running campaigns nowadays. The whole campaign would be by AI, but there has to be a human interaction at the end of the day. If this human interaction was not there and we left everything for AI, it's not gonna work. At some point, we're gonna stop. There's businesses like they're just thinking about just saving time, saving money. Let's say they're saving money for having more employees or something like that, and we're just implementing AI instead. But they forget about the results at the end. They're not getting the best results at the end. It will be just something for short term, but for long term goals, they don't have retention. They don't have like the business is not going to work the way they think. So yeah, I was let me ask you like when you start with a new client, what's usually the first barrier you help them overcome with most of the clients you're dealing with?
But I think like with everybody, no matter where you're located in the world, I think the first barrier that everyone has to overcome
Mm,
is what's the cost? Because everybody is restrained right now
mhm.
because just basically with the political situation across the world,
Yeah,
everybody has a problem paying for services because they're like, well, I can do this via ChatGPT. ChatGPT can create my whole campaign for me. ChatGPT can do this. I can plug this into a CRM tool and it can do everything for me for $23. So why am I going to pay you to do this for me and have a human touch? I'm going to pay you to train. And so I think the whole element that we're seeing right now, especially in consulting, is this challenge to overcome people to actually pay to hire a consultant to actually do the services they're doing
yeah.
because they don't see the value.